Go.
So we're gonna start with the waist length prussic.
Excellent.
This is gonna be your long one. All right, so once you get your prussic knot on there, you wanna get it nice and dressed, and you're gonna wanna measure your length. So this is how you're gonna be able to determine whether or not you're gonna need to put a knot in your prussic. So we'll imagine that this is one single prussic cord, and you're gonna move it up pretty high, get some tension on it, and then sit. So sit really close to the ground because I don't currently have 2 points of connection. And the rule on the team is whenever we're on a rope, we have to have 2 points of connection. So the thing you're looking for is that when you're fully weighted in your harness and all of this is starting to ride up, is that your prussic is still within the reach of your hands. Because if it's not, this gets really funny when you're trying to mitigate, especially your edges. If it were too high and my hand just came in up here, I would have a really hard time getting in and breaking that prussic. So this is what you're really looking for. Now, if I were to go a little shorter, it definitely still puts it within my working distance, but what it does is it limits your throw. And throw is going to become really important as you're ascending with your prussics, because if you limit it too much, so say I had a super short one, every time I moved up, I would only be able to move up this far versus giving me a nice big step. All right, so that's really why you're looking for that sweet spot of a fully weighted harness with it in your hand. So this is going to be your upper prussic. Your second prussic, you're going to set up with the remainder of your 7 mil. So you're going to use your open 7 mil cordalette. So you're going to find the middle of your cordalette, and the way I keep mine wrapped, I always know where my middle is. And you're going to prussic this on the rope as well. And for this system, I really like to keep the girth hitch, the first girth hitch, nice and clean, and it makes dressing it a lot easier. So I'll put one girth hitch in, and then I wrap my legs of the prussic around, keep them in the middle, and then I pull them through my horseshoe. And again, before I start my next loop, I go ahead and straighten everything out. I make sure that that horseshoe again is on the outside. I separate my loops to the outside or my legs to the outside so it stays nice and clean as I pull my last wrap through. So again, you're going to want to dress up your prussic so it's nice and tight. Taking a minute, and sometimes it does, because you really want to have sexy knots here. And we do say it on the team, sexy knots save lives, and so having your knots, one, so they're easily identifiable to someone who's checking you out, and two, it assures that they function to their best of their capabilities. So really just giving it the time to get it where it needs to be. And that way it grabs. So now that I have my open cord prussics in the middle, the next step that we're going to do is you're going to need to put an overhand in this. And the reason the overhand is important is I'm going to be doing different things with each leg of my prussic. And that allows for there to be a safety knot, whereas as I'm using them separately, if I don't have the overhand in there, I can end up pulling apart my prussic so it doesn't grab. So that's a really key safety feature, is that overhand. They're kind of a pain to pull out later on, and a trick for that is rolling your knots on a rock, and it will slowly loosen them for you. So I have my overhand. And now we've talked about 2 points of connection. So here's my upper point, point 1 of connection. And I'm going to use one of my legs as my second point of connection. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move down further than what I need, and I'm going to put a hard stop in it. I'm going to put a figure 8 in it. And you'll see why I'm giving it a figure 8. So that's more than I need because that's a lot of length to fall. So what I'm going to do for some adjustability to be able to keep it snug, but to sort of play with my throw as I move up, is I'm going to put a clove hitch in it. And that clove hitch, I'll be able to adjust here and there if I need to address my length or my throw. So I'm going to snug that in. And I went ahead and put it into the same carabiner. That carabiner doesn't need to be opened for anything. It keeps it nice and clean, and it's good gear utilization. So that one's locked. So now I've got my 2 points of connection. And then I need to think about how I'm going to move up the rope. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a figure 8 on a bite. Is one option. And this is something you have to think about what works for your own body. I have pretty flexible hips. I'm able to get a pretty high step. So I do my leg loop pretty small because of that factor. If you can't get a big high step in, give yourself a little more weight so that you're able to just work with whatever your body has for you. And this is going to be now my foot loop. So it doesn't look super challenging yet, but I'll eventually be able to move my lower prussic up, and this is how I'm going to move up the rope. So you're going to start, I'm going to snug up my upper prussic as high as I can get it. And I'm going to sit on it, and I'm going to weight it, and again I'm going to check my distances and my knots. And I'm going to move this one up. And one of the things that we want to check is this clove hitch right here. We want to think about our distance between our 2 prussics. So what happens if this upper prussic starts slipping and is so close to my lower prussic? What's going on there? They're minding each other, okay? So you want to make sure that you give yourself a little bit of a distance there. So I'm going to move my upper prussic back up. I'm going to weight it. I'm going to think about the distance that I want between my 2 prussics. And I usually go for a full fist, and I limit my throw there because I really don't want my prussics to be able to sit like that. And if I'm just focusing on ascending up, I may not realize that I'm snugging my 2. And so that's why I'm going to limit my throw at my clove hitch. So I'm going to take some slack out and make sure that my prussics are still really sexy and that I'm ready to go. So as you start ascending, or before you start ascending, so I'm going to go ahead and run through a safety check and make sure that all of my points of contact are locked. So I'm locked up here. That's 1 point of contact. My prussic looks good. It comes to me through a clove hitch. It's connected with that figure 8 on a bite, and I'm locked down here. So those are my 2 points, and then I've got my leg loop working for me. So snug up top. And the other thing to think about is terrain mitigation. So as I sit, you're going to swing a little bit into the wall, and how do you navigate this? So I'm going to use my unsaddled foot to really help push away from the wall. I'm going to step up, and then I'm going to take my lower prussic, I'm going to move it up as high as I can, all right? And again, there's that distance, and I might have shorted myself a little bit here now that I'm fully sitting on it, but we'll see. And then I can think about that for my leg loop. So my leg loop, I probably could go higher, but this feels pretty comfortable. And then you're going to step up on it. The first step kind of sucks because you're just taking the stretch out of the rope, and you're like, man, I didn't move at all. So the other thing, or the last thing to think about before you really get off, is just double checking your whole system, being ready to move off the ground. And this takes quite a while to get up. And as I step up, one of the things I'm doing is I'm not kicking my foot out. I bring it under my butt, and I just stand up on it. And that's going to be a more ergonomic way of moving.